And I'm back by myself. Bill, is Bill here? There's Bill.
Hey, look.
Hey, we're back.
And we're on. Okay, so that's something. I'll have to rename this.
I don't know how to send this to Eric.
Oh, okay. So in the plus, there's a hang on. Ah, crap. Resized it off the screen, so now I can't find things. There, put that over there. This here. If you go top center of the thing.
People, there you go.
There you go. Go top center, invite people, and then copy the link, and then DM it to him. Are we both the Cubist at the moment?
Yes.
Excellent. That's how it should be. All right. So this is... All right. So we have 2 viewers. Is that just you and me?
I guess so.
Okay, we need to put out a... See if we can get people. 3. All right, so we've got a couple people that are finding it.
Maybe Eric.
Maybe.
I have to get to the YouTube to see if anyone's watching. I can't.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, this is super thrilling viewing for whoever it is that may be watching this, and this is going to YouTube. So we have to remember that even though we're troubleshooting, we are still live here. So I'm going to put out, did the link go through? Yeah, that feels like that was a YouTube thing. That was not a me thing. Because it definitely has, I mean, there have been, how many times have I gotten disconnected since the show has happened? Right? And the show continues on with other people taking over hosting while I figure out my garbage internet. I'll tell you what, if this career shift thing happens and I end up getting a new internet provider, it's going to be great. All right, so let's get back to the point. Eric said earlier that one of the things that he believes is that you're allowed, that we all, I think, agree on, is that it's okay to have an opinion the first time you play a game. And I was talking about how frustrated I was with people telling me stuff like you have to watch 40 hours of a TV show before you can really appreciate what the show brings. And all I thought is that, oh, hey, the chat room is still there.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So chat room, I can see you now. Sorry, it took us a minute to get this all figured out. Yes, the name of it changed because I went in and changed the title of the thing. So good. All right. Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there, folks. So yeah. All right. So let's talk about the difference between a rating and a review. This is actually a really good point that Andrew brings up in the chat. If somebody rates a game and puts 4 words down, he doesn't really care. That's a good point. When I made the review system for the Cubist, buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it, the point of that was that I wanted to give the impression of whether I thought the game was worthy of being in a collection, because I come at things from a point of view of I don't want to own 1,000 games, right? Like I don't ever want to have a ton of games clogging up my shelves, which is why I'm looking to downsize a bunch of them over the span of this weekend. And so for me, if a game is going to be in my collection, it has to earn its spot, and it has to stay there earning its spot by being worthy of being in the, like being worth your time and your money. And if I play a game and it's not fun, the odds of me wanting to go back and play it some more, unless the person I'm playing with can say, okay, I can see where you didn't have fun, let me help you, right? because there's that. So let's talk about Cindy for a second. Cindy had a miserable time playing the cherry blossom tree that blooms once every 10 years, and Ancient Artifacts because she had bad luck. I mean, if you look at that and you say, look, you had bad luck, but this is a luck-based game, and there's a very real chance that next time I will have bad luck and you will have good luck. You know, she is allowed to not like the game because it might have too much luck, but as long as she understands why she doesn't like it, it's okay, right? But if you just say, this game sucks, it's not fun, that doesn't help anybody with anything. That doesn't give any kind of real information. All that does is say, okay, well, this person didn't enjoy the thing.
Correct.
So, like, Andrew in the chat is saying that a review is at least a somewhat journalistic effort. I don't know if we do journalistic due diligence on this show. I actually think that would be interesting. I would be curious to hear what people think of that. I know that I try to approach things from a point of view of somebody that is trying to give games a chance, right? Like, I want to have a good time. But I definitely don't think of myself as a journalist by any stretch of the imagination, right? I think of myself as a guy that knows a bit about board games and likes talking about them once a week for an hour.
Yes.
At what point, where is that line? Patrick, for you, like, you wrote a negative review that's about to be published, right? Or a review, I guess.
Just a review. I wouldn't call it a negative review.
Sorry.
It had some negative comments in it.
Sure.
But
so are you a journalist?
No. I'm
are
an
you
architect.
You might be a journalist. I don't know.
Sure.
Well,
no, I mean, I know who I wrote it for other board gamers, right? That's the difference, I guess. That's really the difference in my opinion. It's not written for, journalists are collecting data and writing things for the masses, right? For people who aren't in the know or whatever.
Right. Well, and there's a part of it too. Like, we have a pod pledge and a Patreon for this show, okay, to help offset the costs, the money that's been spent to make the show happen. But nobody's making money off of the show. Like, nobody's getting paid to do what we do, right? Like, the closest thing to compensation that you could even joke about is sometimes we get free games. So that way we will talk about them.
I don't want free games.
Yeah, and half the time the stuff that we get is not good, right? Like, it's just not. I mean, and it's not always terrible, but it's not good, So, like, I don't think that that's necessarily compensation. It's more like, here is some more stuff for you to do, right? And I mean, sometimes you get a review copy and it's great, and you're like, yay! I was really happy when Bezier sent me Whistle Stop and Werewords. Those were great review copies to get because I ended up enjoying both of them. But I also got Kitten Casualty, which I talked about on this show as a review copy. That was real bad, and I've gotten a lot of stuff that has not been particularly good somewhere in the middle there, or at least not good for me. And here's the deal. It's fine. There are going to be people that love Kitten Casualty, I'm sure. Right. I don't want to play games with those folks. There's gotta, but I'm sure there are going to be people that are going to enjoy that game, but it's not going to be me. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't enjoy it. And I think I was pretty clear on why I didn't enjoy that one in particular. And I think, and so it's just a matter of, can you divorce your passion for something from the negative review? Right? Like, if I pick on Trajan, that's another game that I like to give crap about, and I have made what I always viewed as a joke about calling it Mario Party, the Euro game, right? Because you're playing like eight different mini games, no two of which have much of a relationship to each other. But there are people that get really offended when I make that joke. They don't find it funny. They really like that game, and they think that I am somehow being disrespectful. And to me, it's like, I don't feel like there is a disrespect issue here when it comes to a game, right? Like, that feels like we're placing too much emphasis on some sort of holiness of these games, and that's not a thing that they should have. I don't know. I love Eclipse. I don't consider it a sacred cow. People don't. There are lots of people that don't like Eclipse. I think those people are insane, but I don't begrudge them their right to not like it.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know. I wonder. Let's. Go ahead, Patrick.
I was just gonna say, for me, I lean more towards wanting to hear from opinions from people whose opinions I've heard over time and I've learned to align with. And even then, there are things that we disagree with.
Yep.
So Eric and I discussed that the other day. There are things that we both like, and there are things that we disagree on, He'll point out 1,000 times, I don't like co-ops, but you do, but that's one thing we don't agree on, but there are other games that we both like. So you got to kind of learn over time, a reviewer, you just can't read one thing that they review and think it's going to be the right thing, that's going to be the right review for you either.
I agree with that. Ben in the chat says something about not using hurtful words when describing games. And I personally kind of take issue with that. A game doesn't have feelings to be hurt. The designer of the game does, but I'm not saying that the designer of the game is a bad human being because they made a game I don't like, right? And that's the extension of this. You have to be able to critique the art and not be critiquing the artist. Who designed El Grande? I legit don't know. Can you look on behind your ear? Because I, off the top of my head, can't come up with it.
Yeah, it's Kramer and...
Okay.
What's the other guy's name?
Kiesling?
No, Kramer and Ulrich.
Kramer and Ulrich. Okay, great. So I don't have any opinion on the personalities of Kramer and Ulrich. I have never met them. I'm sure that they are lovely human beings. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're wretched human beings. I have no idea. What I know is that they made a game that I don't like. Mm-hmm. And if I want to use hyperbolic language to express to you the level to which I do not like that game, I think I make it pretty clear that I am intentionally using hyperbolic language, right? Like, I would argue that I am not a particularly nuanced human being when it comes to this sort of thing, right? Like, I have fun with this. I don't say I think it's a garbage human game that no human being should ever play. I say I think it's a crap game and I don't want to play it. But there's a difference there. And at no point am I implying that the people that made the game are bad. And I don't think that Kramer and the other guy whose name I have already forgotten.
Robert Urich. He was in Vegas.
There you go. Patrick is running the Cubist podcast account at the moment because we were trying to get the show back up and running. So that's him responding. You can tell because he's actually typing things and I never remember to. So there's that. I think you can't get so much of your personal self-worth tied up in games, right? Like, I don't care. You want to take your copy of Eclipse and set fire to it and then film it and put it on YouTube and being like, this game is so bad that I literally burned it in honor of Bill Corey Jr. from the Cubist because I hated this game so very much.
So speaking of that, remember when Anthony literally burnt his game?
Yes. The game that he said out loud he was going to burn when it arrived. He had already decided he was going to burn it before he even got it. Yeah. And then did it because he was so unhappy.
There's a negative review.
Exactly. Tom Bassel chucked a game off his roof, right? Wasn't that Vasco da Gama?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds about right.
Yep. He threw Hawaii in the trash can next to him at the end of his review as a separate review.
That was pretty ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But it's ridiculous. That's the point.
That's theater.
Right. It's part of what making content is. Mm-hmm. And okay, so right. And you're right. People do get invested in the games like that. What I'm saying is that it's not my responsibility to caretake people that get overly invested in a game, right? Like, I love Eclipse. It is my #1 game. The Kickstarter is going live later this week, and I'm going to throw an inordinate amount of money at it in order to have the newest version, even though I have all of the things for the first edition. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to get the second edition, and I'm going to be so happy all over again that I have an even prettier version of my Precious. I love it more than Brandon Kemp loves Azul. And
wow.
Yes, and I don't care who knows it, and we can have a death match about that if you want. But I don't take it personally if people don't like it, and I don't take it personally. I think those people are insane persons for not liking it. And I will say that if they go out of their way to make a gameplay experience unfun because they're not having a good time, you know, like if they refuse to stop the game, but they also refuse to try, that I will get upset about. But it's not the game itself, right? And I don't care how much money I spent on a game. You're allowed to not like it, right? And vice versa. If it makes you feel any better, Paul, we missed most of the show too because the internet went ape shit and YouTube betrayed us. So don't feel too bad about that.
Yeah, getting on the money point, I think you'll see a lot of that. We were talking about Kickstarter, I think, before the show. A lot of people defend their games because they spent a lot of money and they get this thing and they want to defend it, even though they got a piece of crap, or they got a less than perfect game, but they still want to defend their purchase. That's
sure, because it's sunk cost, right? Like the guys from Freakonomics talk about, Stephen and Stephen from the Freakonomics podcast and book have talked about the sunk cost fallacy, that, you know, you have spent money, so therefore you give it more weight, you know, or you spent time or you've spent effort or whatever. And so you want it to be better than it actually is.
Right.
And so you're willing to defend it, and you're willing to say, I spent $200 on this game. And hell, I do it. We all do it on occasion, right? Like, how much money have I spent on Gloomhaven? And I tried 3 separate times to get a campaign going. And this latest one has stalled out a little bit too, because we can't get schedules to line up. Are you kidding me right now? Or, you know, Sentinels of the Multiverse, Oblivion. I was just ranting pre-show about how we're coming up on 2 years late on that one, and I've got $110 sunk into that sucker, plus all the money that I spent on it before. You know, like I understand, and Ben, we're not picking on you. I promise we're not. Okay, and I don't want to pick on anybody that gets. I'm not trying to attack people through any of this. Okay. What I am trying to say is that it's really important that you don't tie too much of yourself into games themselves, right? Like into the hobby, sure, that's fine. That makes sense, right? We are all passionate about this hobby. We wouldn't be sitting in poorly lit rooms on a Monday night yapping about this if we weren't, right? I mean, that's why we're here. That's why this show exists. But don't get so emotional about any of it that you allow things to negatively impact you in the wrong ways, you know? And just, I think that's sort of my takeaway here. And that applies to negative reviews. Now, having said that, we have to have those negative reviews because I need to know the stuff I'm not going to like. Right? Like, Patrick, I want you to play Werewords with me.
I already have.
I know. You hated it. And you didn't tell me that you were going to hate it until after you played it.
No, I distinctly remember saying, don't make me play this game.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me why.
Okay. I could have.
You'd have told me I hate social deduction games because I can't lie worth a crap. That would have been fine. I know. But my point is, if we don't know why we're not going to like something, then all we're doing is setting ourselves up to have a bad time.
Right. But that also kind of goes around back to the whole point of knowing your reviewer, right?
Yes.
because people should know I hate social deduction. So I'm going to give a crappy review to any hidden role thing or any kind of game like that. It's going to be pretty rare. So
Chad brings up a good point. When it is your game, you know, so this is a different thing here. Okay. This is, now we're talking about designers and publishers getting defensive. That's different. Right. And I guess that if I had Kramer and crap, it's never going to stick in my head. The El Grande guys.
Yeah.
If I had the El Grande guys on the show and I crabbed about El Grande and how ugly it was and whatever, first off, I think they would look down at me from their high rating and their lots of money that they made over the last 20 years on the game. And they would say, oh, you're adorable. Great. But the second thing is that, yeah, they might be like, ouch, that sucks. But I think the odds are pretty good that if they're successful, they're not going to so much, right? Maybe a first-time designer or a first-time publisher getting a bad review, it would be painful. But I can't imagine that if you are successful, that continues to stick in your craw. I guess I don't know. I know that I decided I didn't want to be a designer because I couldn't take the negative feedback. I agree. But then I also removed myself from the equation and said, I can't take negative feedback. I know this about me. I don't want to do that. Right? Like in this particular instance, that's not for me.
No feedback, you know, you got, sometimes that's just as bad. I mean,
oh yeah, it's fine. We've talked about that on this show, right? Like as soon as we refer to a game as fine, we're like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
that's the death knell. If a game is, you know, milk toast or it's so bland that you're like, you don't even have an opinion on it, that's almost worse, isn't it?
Right. Even the BGG scale, you know, it's a 1 to 10 scale, and something below a 6 is almost considered horrible. But it's not, you know, 5 is supposed to be average.
Isn't that messed up?
Yeah.
So a friend of the show, Chris Dunbar, I'm calling him out by name because once upon a time, a long time ago, we very briefly did a podcast together, and he's a great guy. He only has 5 data points on the BGG scale. Everything is a 2, a 4, a 6, an 8, or a 10. He refuses to use the odd numbers. I have no idea what his logic is, but whatever it is, it's fine. Okay. 6 is his middle ground. And it's basically, his system is sort of the similar to the Cubist scale, except for there's a meh in the middle, right? Like there's games that are not even forgettable. They're just sort of, I don't care. I understand what he's going for there, but it feels like it sells the system short that BGG has in place, because you're right. 5.5, 6 should be a fine game, right? Like it should be the middle of the scale, should be fine, good. There's nothing, it's not outstanding, it's not bad, it's just, it's fine. But that's not a bad game at all. Like Extra is ranked like 4,000 something on there, and it has an average rating of 6.7. How is that bad? Right? Like that's not a bad rating by any stretch, right? But for some reason we perceive it as, oh, it's only that. That's bad. I don't get it. Netters in the chat talked about she doesn't review games that she doesn't like. She doesn't want to spend a bunch of her time talking about a game she doesn't even want to promote. Yeah. And there have been a number of reviewers that have said that. I know Stephen Conway from The Spiel has said that in the past, that he doesn't want to do negative reviews because he spends so much time on every episode and he doesn't want to spend a lot of time on something he doesn't enjoy. Tom Vassell used to take a lot of crap early on in his written review days for everything being positive. A lot of crap back in the, which is funny because we were just talking about him throwing games off the roof of his house, you know, later on when he went into video. But he used to be super patty positive and people gave him a lot of crap about that. I get that. That's just not me. I fully respect people as long as everybody knows that that's the case, right? Like, because then we can infer Netters, we know Netters has played this and she didn't review it. So we're like, okay, well, we know where that landed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
about Uno based on her review.
Oh boy.
Did you see
I
that?
want to play Dose. Can I just say that I actually kind of want to go buy a copy of Dose and play it?
We're all gluttons for, or
I know.
What's the I don't know what the right word is. Suckers.
Chumps. We're chumps for sure.
Yes.
For
sure. I mean, I grew up on Uno. I enjoyed Uno as a kid, not knowing any better.
Paul in the chat points out there are too many good games coming out that only 8 through 10s are worth buying. I don't know that that's necessarily the case, though. I think that you're relying a lot on groupthink there, right? Like you're relying a lot on now again, what Eric and Patrick were talking about earlier in the show, where if you find a reviewer that your tastes align with them, and that reviewer gives a game an 8, 9, or 10, then sure. But I would say like an aggregate, I don't know. I don't know that I put a lot of stock in that. I mostly just, I'm a bad shopper, right? Like I shop on gut. There are a lot of games that I'm like, that looks like that could be really cool. I have no idea, but I want to try it, right? Or on recommendations, like I backed Australia because Paul told me I should. Mm-hmm. I trust Paul. I know that Paul works on games that I like and has similar tastes, so I backed it. But I also have backed other games that I ended up getting burned hard on Kickstarter because I was like, oof, that's not even close to what I wanted it to be. Right? Yeah. And that's the thing. I think you just have to know what it is that you're like, what it is that you are consuming. Line between reviewing and overviewing and promoting and being an influencer. I don't know. We've had this conversation before too. I don't know if I'm an influencer or not. Am I? I don't want to be an influencer. I mean, I guess I kind of do because I have an ego and I'm a living, breathing human being that likes the idea that my word carries weight. But I also don't want that pressure, right? Like I don't want people to be like, "Oh, Bill told me this game was great and it sucked." I don't want that, right? Like I don't want that weight around my neck either.
I write my reviews while eating my avocado toast.
For the record, Joshua is talking about how he doesn't like Revolution from Steve Jackson. I 100% agree.
I don't like that up. I wanted to make sure that. Well, that's a hidden roll game.
It's a blind bidding game, is what it is. It's not a hidden roll game.
Well, it's one of those you got to get in the head of the other person and guess what they're going to do. And if you don't guess the right thing, then you screw it up. Yeah, that's
okay. So Andrew's giving me crap. He says I either have to be a journalist or an influencer. I got to pick one. I'm going to go with pundit. Can I be a pundit? I like that.
You don't like puns? What are you talking about?
No, pundit. Damn it. It's a different word.
Oh.
That's Chris Michaud. Your moderator, Chris from Flip the Table, is the one that referred to me as a pundit. And I like that because basically it just means I'm willing to talk about stuff and take crap for being wrong. As far as I can tell, I don't know. I'm not... I guess what it comes down to is I think that negative reviews, I'm trying to actually keep this a little bit on point because I feel like we're just kind of having a fun conversation here because we got so flustered from the internet betraying us before. I feel like negative reviews have a really important place because it can't all be sunshine and roses, right? Maybe I'm just cranky. Am I just cranky? Patrick, am I cranky? Is that it? Can it be sunshine and roses?
No, I think you got to be honest because not everything is great. I mean, you've got 50, 100, or 500 games in your category in your closet there. They're not all 10s.
Right. And here's the deal. They don't need to all be 10s either, right? Like it's okay for me to like some games I own better than others, but that doesn't mean I don't want to own them because they will scratch different itches.
Right.
I own Werewords, but I definitely don't always want to play Werewords. Sometimes I want to play High Frontier because I want to abuse myself for 5 hours and fill out spreadsheets. And sometimes I want to play The Colonists because I want to take microtransactions for 8 hours. And sometimes I want to play Junk Art because I want to admire how badly my hands shake as I get older and my sausage fingers,
Yeah.
Like I don't know. They all, And okay. And let's address the word honesty here. Okay. Because I want to be really clear on something. Implying that only people that give negative reviews as honest is a really dangerous slope. And I don't want to say that because I don't think that's true. I think it's a matter of, I don't think you should lie when you give reviews, but I also don't think that you have to give negative reviews to be an honest reviewer. I think that Netters, as an example, only wants to do reviews of games that she enjoys because that's where she wants to put her energy. That does not make her dishonest. It just means that that's how she chooses to spend her time and energy. And I think that that's valid, right? Anybody that has known me for any length of time knows that I'm not going to sugarcoat things. If I think something sucks, I'm going to say it sucks. But you also know that if I say that I think something sucks, it's because I didn't enjoy it, not because I think it is fundamentally bad. That's different, right? Does that make sense? Like that I want that there is a difference. Did I freeze again, Patrick? Are you there?
No, I'm there. You're good.
Okay, good. Now I'm super paranoid about it. Anytime everybody goes quiet, I'm going to freak out and think my internet sucks. Someone give me a copy of DOS. All right, bring it on. That's fine. She has a YouTube channel called Netters Plays. I need 2 of them. Ugh.
An extra one.
Oh God. I have an extra already. Stop it.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Netters Plays.
Netters Plays. Difference between what and what? I don't know. I don't remember what I said, Ben. So I'm going to assume that I was wrong. Whatever it was that I said was probably wrong.
He was talking about Netters website.
Oh no, Ben told me to say something again. I have no idea. Anyway, here's what I will tell you. At no point, and I feel like it worries me that I feel like I have to say this, but I'm going to throw it out loud. At no point, if I give a game a bad review, am I saying that it is a bad game unless I point blank say this is a fundamentally broken and mechanically unsound game. And then I will point out what I believe is fundamentally broken and unsound. Like when I did the review of Kitten Casualty, I thought the game itself was fine. It was overly light and kind of derpy, but it also had mechanical issues that caused it to be fundamentally broken and not function the way it was supposed to function, or at least the way that a game is supposed to function. And I said that out loud. But if I say that I think El Grande sucks, I'm not telling you that I think it is a poorly designed game. I am telling you that I think it is a black hole of fun where fun goes to die, while people sit around and pensively stroke their mustaches, pondering the next place they can cleverly place a themeless cube. That's what I'm telling you. Patrick just smiles and waits for me to be done.
It's actually one of my favorite moments at Origins is when me and my buddies play El Grande. So.
You know what? And I love that. Yeah. I love that you can have such a great experience with such a terrible game. That makes me happy.
And that's the thing. The game doesn't really matter at this point. Really, it's
that, and that's a really that is a super important point, right? We play a lot of games that are not maybe great. Here's a good example. I don't think Fearsome Floors is a particularly great game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that game-wise, it's a little bit predictable, and I think turn order matters a lot more than it should. But it's fun. It's stupid and it's fun, and you can be dicks to each other and cause the monster to go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's silly and it's fun, and that's okay. It's okay to play a game. Again, Keith Matechka and I, when we had our conversation on Twitter, he said, I have played a lot of well-designed games that are just not my jam, and I've had a great time with games that are not real tightly designed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, that's a good point. I want to throw this. I'm just kind of reading the chat room a little bit. Andrew in the chat I dislike the idea of qualifying everything with to me or for me or in my opinion. And that is part of the whole, Ben brought this up earlier, is that trying to, Netters you don't want to. Ben brought this up about not using hurtful language, and that is people trying to cushion the blow, right? It's just my opinion, but I think El Grande is taking up much needed space that 4,000 other games could better use his shelves for, right? No. All right, fine. Am I going too hard here, Patrick? Am I going too hard in the paint?
That's all right. I'm still recovering from people ripping on Glory to Rome or after at Origins. So
Really? Really? There's a story here. I want to hear this.
oh, nothing. They're just giving me crap because they know I like it more than anything.
Oh, sure. Is that your number
Pe-
one game?
People, it vacillates, but it's one of my favorites. I
Okay.
don't, I don't pick favorite children. I just like it a lot. I like to teach it. I enjoy it. I like having it. I like teaching it. I like playing it
Mhm.
with people. So
Can I just say that playing it with you at BGG last year and the smile that was on your face as we were playing it, just the joy of teaching it made
right,
it a more enjoyable game than it would have been otherwise.
sure,
Right. And that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't love Glory to Rome. I think it's
no,
fine,
yeah,
but I don't love it. It is almost the definition of a play it for me. Right. It's
right.
fine. And I'll play it if people want to.
Yeah. Well, for that, I mean, it's not a great game. It's finding those broken things. That's what I like about it. It's when I was playing my buddy and he like did this amazing move, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to learn how to do that.
Mhm.
Um, that's what made it cool to me. So
Yeah. Netters, you should play it. And all I'm going to say is after BGG, when Netters and Patrick have played El Grande, okay, and then Netters goes onto social media and puts up hashtag Team Bill, there will
oh
be a little party happening
no,
where I'm like,
hashtag Team Beige.
yeah, 50 Shades of Brown should be the subtitle of that game. So much brown. I don't know. I want to, Andrew. Um, yeah, every review is a writer's opinion. So just saying, in my opinion, and for me, and whatever feels like wasted words, right? And I think that's sort of Andrew's point. I'm guessing. I'm sorry if I'm paraphrasing you a little bit, Andrew, and if I'm misrepresenting you, call me out, and I will correct it. But I feel like that's sort of where you're headed with this: is that these are wasted words because it should be pretty obvious that it's our opinion from the get go. I am not a I am not a gaming expert. Well, I don't know. Do I count as a gaming expert? I have no idea. I don't have a degree in gaming, right? Like I'm not an expert witness. I'm not a guy that can be like, I know what good games are.
Hmm.
I have spoken from upon high and I judge thee to be inferior. This is not a thing that I'm trying to be at all, right? Like I have a pedigree and I have a lot of experience, but I am not the end all be all. And nobody is. Tom Vassell isn't. Rado isn't. None of us are. We are just people that are talking about things that we care about. And yes, and yes, okay. So I'm a semi-professional game.
We lost Bill now. He's a semi-professional gay what? See, can you hear me making fun of him? Probably. It is 11:30. I think we are going to call it a night. A game critic? Oh, okay. I'm thinking there, Chad. It is 11:30. We are having internet problems. I am going to sign off for the Cubist. So, hey everybody. You can reach me at Over the Hill. Your Bill is the Cubist. And Eric Buscemi is at Eric Buscemi. We lost him an hour ago. And we'll call it a good night. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about all the technical difficulties tonight.